We're going to get going on the afternoon portion here, which is exciting because we've got money to give away. Yes. So first, I think most of you who have been around the county know Connie Flores-Dorol, who works as a legislative analyst in the county manager's office. And I got to tell you, she is outstanding. I've had the pleasure of working with Connie. Really, let's give her a round of applause. I've had the pleasure of working with Connie for the last year and a half, and she is a tireless advocate for all of you, working to make those RFPs as easy as possible to understand and complete, and really takes the lead on a lot of these issues. So very fortunate to have her in the office. So Connie's going to come up today, talk about the RFP process, talk about what we're looking for. We have $1 million to give out. In AB 109 grants. It's not a lot of money. I understand that. It's not a lot of money, and we want to accomplish some great things with this money. So we'll be looking to leverage it. We'll be looking for you to partner with others. So we just take this money and do the best that we can with it, working together, looking at what's best for this population right now and what gaps in services we have with this population right now. Connie will explain the categories we're looking for, but always remember we're looking for things that are innovative also, and maybe cutting edge, and maybe not exactly evidence-based in that we're not replicating an existing program that's successful, but we are looking to use the principles that Natalie talked about earlier to address a problem in this county that maybe hasn't been addressed yet. So we're going to ask you to think about that, and there's some specific areas that we hope to really put some funding towards, because we've identified them as gaps. There may be others out there. But with that, I'll turn it over to Connie.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? No. Okay. Not sure how to turn this on, so I'll try to talk loudly.
We have technical systems.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There we go. All right, and Lorraine and Maya are passing out a copy of the RFP, which will be posted today, by the end of today, on the CCP's website, which is on the at the probation department website. So there'll be an electronic version of what you have in front of you today. So thanks, Mike. So before I launch into going through the RFP, I just wanted to reiterate some of what Mike mentioned regarding what you all heard. And I think it's important that we all start from the same basis as we go into this RFP. So I thought it was great that Dr. Pearl came and spoke about evidence-based practices and what they are, and how they may or may not apply to your current programs and services. But this is where we're headed. This is where the state is going. And this is what the county's required, really, to do now. It's a new world in criminal justice, and so we, like every other county, has to adapt. And the funding that we get from the state is tied to evidence-based practices and being able to show that we're making progress, good progress here in this county. So this is why we hammer this point home, not to make it difficult for you all, but really to try to help you in getting to where we're all headed, which is to provide services to this population, to the AB 109 population that have a basis in science and in data, and are measurable and are replicable and that work. So I just wanted to say that. One of the other things that Dr. Pohl mentioned was obviously the use of data, and she mentioned assessments and tracking and measurements, and I can happily say that we in San Mateo County have understood that from the beginning of realignment, and invested in ETO, which is efforts to outcome, which is the tracking system that she talked about, which is a web-based system that has been used for years in the social services side to be able to track populations and measure their outcomes. And we're using that now in the county with public safety, with this population, specifically the AB 109 population. Our departments, probation, the sheriff's office, behavioral health and recovery, HSA, Service Connect, all are using ETO, Social Solutions, to track the population. So it's taken us a while. It's taken the county a while, I will admit, but we're getting there. And so we will also be using this same software to track any services that we provide through the RFP. We have one group already that has begun and is completing their system, which is STEP, and they are providing an educational services to the AB 109 population, to a beta group. So they're the first ones out the door to use the system. So, but any grantees, any CBOs that receive funding from the county will be required to use ETO, again, because it's all about tracking and showing progress. So the other thing that we want you to keep in mind as I go through the RFP is the whole issue of promising practices. And Mike mentioned that, and I want to reiterate that because we understand that this is a shift in thinking for many. It was a shift in thinking for us as well, but it's an important shift. And so one of the categories in the RFP, as you'll see, is for promising practices, innovative programs. So we want to give you all an opportunity to show us, to demonstrate to us a need that perhaps we didn't think of. And so that whole category is in there for that purpose. Now, of course, there still has to be some best practices involved in any proposal, but it gives you some flexibility to do some collaboration perhaps, and Dr. Pearl mentioned that as well. I mean, you may be good at one thing and there's another organization in your community that does something else that's part of that model that you can come together and partner with. So we'd really like to see those sorts of proposals as well. So having said that, I'd like to sort of go through the RFP, and if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and I'll try to answer them. Mike is here as well to help in answering the questions. So again, the RFP is for the AB 109 population, specifically PRCS, the post-release community supervision population, and the 1170Hs. Those are people in jail doing their time now in the county jail that would have previously gone to state prison. We're setting aside $1 million, and the funding is for fiscal year 2015-16, so starting July 1st. And any funding for a second year will be considered, but it will be contingent on being able to show us that you've made good progress and that your program's working. So there will be funding consideration for a second year. And we understand that sometimes programs take time to get up and going. We get that. But if you are doing what you said you would do, and you're making good progress, and you're keeping your data, tracking your data, and reporting out as we will ask that you do, then we will certainly look at funding for a second year. So as it states in the RFP, applications are due April 10th, and there's the email address and the location which you can actually deliver your application. So that's pretty straightforward. So now I want to get into the areas of need. So one of the things that we determined early on was that we want to use this funding wisely. We only get so much from the state. For the first few years of realignment, there was a debate about how much money counties would get, and the formula changed from year to year. And so now it's sort of stabilized, and there is an agreement between the counties. But even so, we want to make sure that the funding that we used is used for a need that this population is demonstrating. And so what we did in the county manager's office, in collaboration with our partners, the sheriff's office staff, probation, HSA, behavioral health and recovery service, Service Connect, was sit down and say, okay, what are we seeing? Now we're almost 3 years into this, and what are the needs? And so what you see before you is the list of needs that staff have identified as being the top needs for this population. I don't need to tell you, and it's already been mentioned, that housing is a huge concern in San Mateo County, not just for this population, but just for everybody in general. And our board is looking at that very carefully right now, because the cost of housing in this county is astronomical. So you can imagine what the barriers are for people who have a criminal history. So we'd like to see proposals that address supportive and transitional housing for the population. And this is a hard population to place, so anything that can support that, we're hoping to fund. The other need is transportation, and by that, there is a lot going on in terms of supportive services that are provided by HSA, probation, the supervisory services, behavioral health. We have locations throughout the county. People have a hard time getting around. Transportation isn't always reliable. It's a very difficult county to navigate. And so one of the things that staff has identified is a need for transportation to get people to appointments, back home, to job interviews, to training, to counseling, to all sorts of different services. And so transportation is one of the areas that we're hoping to get RFPs, or responses on our RFP for. Number 3 is employment, and that's an ongoing thing. We're looking to find training programs that can train these people in jobs that provide a livable wage. And I know that's a difficult thing in this county, given how expensive it is to live. But what we're hearing is that, people can find a job at Home Depot, but they can't live here anymore. They have to move to Stockton or the Central Valley or wherever. Hopefully, this RFP will generate responses from organizations that haven't necessarily done training, and training in areas that have a more promising, or promise a bit more in terms of salary. Green tech, high tech, construction, the trades, those sorts of jobs that provide something more than minimum wage. And so I realize it's a tall order, but I think that we can, get there. So that's the third area. And then the fourth area, again, is this innovative programs and services. Again, we're looking to all of you who work with the population and know it well to come to us and say, well, county, you didn't think about this. How about this, And so given everything that you just learned today about the principles of evidence-based practices, I think that you have some new tools now to be able to go back and look at what you're doing and say, well, it worked here, and let me tell you how it worked here. And I think that if we do this, it'll work even better. So this is your opportunity to get creative, to show to us what you can do and how you can do it, and that we'll take a look at it and really consider funding something different that we would have never thought of. So So those are the generally the four areas that we're looking to fund in this round. Any questions at this point? No? Okay. Yeah, Dr. Fay?
Do you have a sense of what the pool is of organizations that would be interested in this opportunity? Yeah, we went through the first round, and it was very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so that's one question. Who are we competing? Not by name, but
Mm-hmm.
it would be kind of helpful because $1 million sounds really good, but it only goes so far.
Right.
Depending on-
Yeah, we are going to distribute this as far as and wide as we possibly can, I mean, I think that given the areas of need, I mean, these are some areas we haven't traditionally funded. And so, I mean, transportation is not something that we've done in the past. And that's a whole different group of companies and organizations that might be able to provide that service. So it will be expanded. I can tell you that. Okay. All right. So grant requirements. They're listed here, and really these are just intended to, give you some structure as to what your organization should be able to meet. And the only reason I say that is because, the county has some strict contractual requirements that any organization needs to meet. And so I just want to be upfront with all of you about what those are. And what I've done too is attached a copy of the contract that all groups would need to sign. And these go to the board, I should mention. So these contracts, anything over $100,000 has to be approved by the board. So I don't make this up. This is what we are legally bound to meet. So I just want you to be aware of the contractual obligations, like you need to carry insurance and you need to do this. And one of the things that will be part of this contract, for instance, will be what we call a scope of work. And that's really the list of things you'll be responsible for, So if you are, lucky enough to get funded, we will sit with you and go through what those services will be, what you will be doing, who you will be doing it with, how it's going to work. Let's say you need to work with probation. We need to set up that agreement. How is that relationship going to work? When are you going to provide the service? How are you going to track the information? When are you going to report back to us? All of these things. There'll be fiscal reports as well that have to occur. So some of you already know this. You've had contracts with the county. And so it's just to be upfront and make sure that everybody understands what the requirements are. So let's see. Yes.
So in the application, there's the program detail narrative section.
Yes.
To what extent is that related to the scope of work?
Yeah, I'll get to that. Okay. Okay. All right. I will go through the application itself, and I tried to simplify it this year, so hopefully I've done that and not confused you all. All right. Application review and evaluation. So, again, we would love to fund everyone, and we can't, unfortunately. As Dr. Fay said, it's only $1 million. It doesn't get you very far. And so we, will put together a group of staff that advise, that review, and that say, we think these are the good ones. This is good. This is something we haven't seen, or this is something we're not doing right now, and we think it would be helpful. And then we put together a list that way. This is a criteria that we try to follow when we evaluate proposals, so I would just want to make sure that you all are all aware that the clearer you are about what you're going to do, the better. That, that you demonstrate a link to evidence-based practices and the reduction of recidivism. That's the key here. That that somehow your program will help to reduce our recidivism rate. That's the gold standard. Everybody wants to get there, and I know that's a hard thing sometimes to demonstrate if you haven't been keeping data records for years and years and years. But if your program somehow manages to do that, and you can communicate that to us, then you should, because as I say, that is what we're looking for, particularly in the innovative area. I mean, obviously, transportation services are not going to help recidivism, directly, but anything outside of that would. And so, I encourage you to look at those tools that were just shared with you at the Washington State Policy Institute and others that are available, and try to make the connections. Measurable outcomes and benchmarks, again, partnerships, innovative, promising strategies that contribute to system change, demonstrate organizational capacity, staffing, leadership, operational and fiscal management. You should be able to handle all of this, all right? If reports have to happen, somebody has to be there to do it. So your organization should be able to do that. And record, tracking program outcomes and those sorts of things. So anyway, those are all things that we will look to make sure that your organization can do. Now, I have to confess that evidence-based programs, practices, and strategies. So the Board of State and Community Corrections, we have a representative here. I took this language straight from your RFP because I couldn't have said it any better.
We'll take it.
Okay, and I hope you don't mind, because I just wanted for you all to look at directly and read directly what those are. And so again, this is sort of a synopsis of what you just heard this morning, and what we're looking for are proposals that address these issues, that have considered these issues, and communicate those to us in your responses. So I'm not going to go through that part. You've already, unless there are any questions about that. But the BSCC uses this language in their RFPs. We just did an RFP that thankfully was successfully funded. Burn Jag, that the language came from. So, and I've seen it in others. So I would suggest if you have questions about it, you go to the BSCC's website, the Board of State and Community Corrections. They have a whole host of information about evidence-based practices and really what's going on statewide. So again, another recommendation for a resource for all of you. Was there a question? I'm sorry. Yes.
Evaluation criteria in the last two board votes demonstrated organizational capacity, etc. Track record of program or service area or content expertise. Are those sort of similar?
Yeah, I mean, organizational capacity, I mean, if you have the people to do the work, and if, you're a AOD provider, I don't know, I'm making this up, that you have a track record, that you have people that are trained in this, that you are an expert in this area or can show that you've had results. That's all that means.
So they're not the same.
No, they're not. Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, slight distinction. So, and we do ask for a copy of an organizational chart when I get to the application itself, just so that we know who the main players are in your organization. So sometimes we don't know who the staff is, and so that's helpful to us to be able to know, who's doing what, because that's important. So, okay. All right, so summary of key dates. So we're releasing the RFP today, and as I mentioned, it will be available on the CCP's website by the end of today. Grant applications are due April 10th, and then we'll have a review period. Again, county staff will be looking at all of the applications. Now, let me back up and say a little bit about the ask, or how much money you're going to ask for. There, as I said, there is $1 million, but somebody can come in with a $500,000 request, and that eats up half of it right there. So I would really suggest that you think about what service you want to provide, and only ask for that which you will really need. We are not inclined, and correct me, Mike, if I'm misspeaking here, to go back and, say we're only going to give you this much.
No, I think that's absolutely right. We'd like to see certainly a reasonable number up front, and we'd like to spread this as far as we can.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, we're looking for obviously quality programming.
Right. So keep that in mind as you're putting together your applications, because there isn't a lot, and there's a lot of interest, and so we want to be mindful that we want to fund as many applications as we possibly can, but we can't if everybody wants $500,000 or $600,000 and won't deviate from that. So I really encourage you to think about that. And I know that's something the state's grappled with, and they always give feedback that pretty much says the same thing. Please only ask for what you need. So this is something funders deal with all the time. So we'll have the county application review, and then notification of funding determinations. And during that time period, give me a chance to get back to all of you, because that's when I start getting calls about, hey, what happened? I need a couple of days to get back to everybody. I will do my best to do that in a timely manner. That's why I tried to build in a couple of days, but I will get back to everybody. No doubt about that. So, and then we'll do contract negotiation, and this is going to be key. That's why I included the contract itself, so that you can see what that is. And this is when we will sit down with you and go through your scope of work and determine exactly what the contract will cover, what services you will provide, and all the specifics of your particular program. So we want to be very careful in the development of the scope of work, because that will be what you will be held to account for. So we want to make sure everybody is comfortable with the agreement. And then, as I said, all these contracts will probably be over $100,000, in which case they have to go to the board, and they'll go to the board anyway, because there's a great deal of board interest in this program. So we will put these together and send them off to the board for their review and hopefully their approval. And the contract starts July 1st, so that's not a lot of time. So that would be, and we will work with you to give you some time to get up and going if it's a new program. And we understand it takes time, but we really want to see, that you can ramp up fairly quickly, not right away. I mean, we'll work with you, but so I want to be clear about the start dates on these contracts. Okay, so any questions about the timeline? Okay, no? All right. So the application. So in the past, we used to do a narrative application, which works if, like me, you like to talk and write, but a lot of people don't. So this year, what I tried to do with my very basic knowledge of Adobe Forms was to develop an application that was fill in the blanks. And that's what's before you. And that's why you'll have to go to the CCP's website to download a version of this so that you can fill it in yourselves. Because what I want to see, and I think it's helpful for the reviewers, is to have complete answers to all these questions from all of you. you know, I mean, it's hard to compare applications when one group completes it fully and another one doesn't. And so you're working off of half, you know, information on one and full information on the other, and maybe 3/4 information on the other. And so, anyway, so this is my attempt to try to get everybody to answer the same questions and provide the information that will be useful to us in our review of the applications. So besides the, you know, just general contact information, and please, you know, for your contact person, you know, make sure it's the person that we'll be dealing with on a regular basis. So I don't know if it's you or a program manager or somebody, but somebody that we can get a hold of, not somebody that is hard to get to. So, and then of course, if you're going to be pairing up, there's room to include that information as well. So, fairly straightforward. Your organizational mission, I'm on the actual form itself, if you're following. So you know, just a couple of words about who you are and what you do. Doesn't have to be long. You know, and the population you serve. You know, who is this group? Sometimes it's a little hard for groups to narrow it down. So this is your opportunity to tell us who they are. And then comes really the substance of the application, which is, you know, the problem statement. So what is it that you're trying to address? Give it to us in short language, you know, as succinct as you can possibly be. Yes?
Population served.
What's that?
There are other agencies that serve more than one population. Ours, for example, serves adults and youth,
Mhm.
different programs.
Right.
I'm assuming for population served, you only want to hear about our adult efforts.
The one that you will be dealing with in this RFP.
Okay, so
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, these funds are only for adults. Yeah. These are AB 109 funds, only adults. And I should say that the application instructions and the narrative here is intended to help you in crafting your responses, okay? So if you have a question about, what does she mean by problem statement? Program plan. Well, it's listed right here, okay? So, but I get ahead of myself here. So, and then, you know, we'd like for you to give your program a name, something that you know, that will identify you, that's different from every other group. And then the amount requested. So it says total program budget. Sometimes organizations will want to, you know, do in-kind sort of things, you know, and that's great. So, you know, and there's no requirement that you do this, but, you know, if you're so inclined, you can put that in there, all right? But again, as I said, there's no requirement for that. And then the grant period, you know, how much, it's only for 1 year, but if you're hoping to get 2 years of funding, this would be a good place to indicate that. So you can put that in there, all right? And then it says multi-year, obviously, so you can check the box. Okay, so program detail narrative section. So, yeah, sure.
Question about that multi-year.
Sure.
You're applying for 1 year, but if you're hoping that the funding would be multi-year, then the assumption is that the funds would double what you're actually asking.
Well, you can ask for funds for the first year and then indicate that it is a multi-year ask.
Right,
Right,
okay.
yeah, okay.
Multi-year meaning 2 years only?
Meaning 2 years, yeah. I don't think we want to get ahead of ourselves that far, yeah, okay. All right, so under program detail and narrative section, so again, this is the heart of your responses, geographic area to be served. Now, I have to say that, you know, we really would like to see applications from throughout the county. I think I'm pretty, yeah. You know, North County, the coast, Central County, southern part of the county. I mean, the AB 109 population is spread out throughout the county. And so we would really like to see some geographic representation, diversity in the pool of app. So this is your opportunity. If you're a CBO that's based in the north part of the county, this is a perfect opportunity for you to show us that you're going to be serving a population that we may not have thought of or is underserved currently. So this is very important. Again, your program plan, what are you going to do? Your implementation strategy and timeline, again, very, very straightforward. Your collaborative partners. So, our hope is that now that you've heard all this, you might go back and talk to some of your fellow CBOs and decide to do a joint application. And in that case, you would want to list who those are in this area here. Your qualifications and capacity, your project impact and outcomes. What do you expect to come out of all the services that you intend to provide? What are your end goals in providing the service? So if you could list what those are there. And then again, the issue of evidence-based practices. And so, if you are a CBO that's held, that has the data to be able to show us that you've been successful with this particular population, then this is your chance to do it. But if you aren't one of those groups, but have a promising service or practice, then this is your time this is the space in which you would tell us about that. And again, using all the tools that were shared with you this morning, I would highly recommend that you go back and avail yourselves of that information. Demonstration of innovation. How is this different? How is this, something that we may not have thought of? And how do you think it would be helpful to the population? Anything else you want to add about that, Mike?
No, and it may be very straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, you may say, well, this is a tested program that we know works, or that this may be something that using the principles we feel will work. So it could be short, it could be longer, depending on what your answer is going to be and what the program is that you're introducing.
And you may want to start small, with like a smaller group and say, this is an untested thing, but we're going to start with 20 people. And this is what we plan to do. And we're going to show you that this works.
Right.
So, yeah.
So on the prior page, you listed how many characters you want in each answer.
No, yeah.
Do you want 100 pages?
No.
20 pages? What's the range of what you expect?
Well, I mean, in some of the boxes, there's a limit because I do want to, and I tried to give you more opportunity to write longer responses for those questions that necessitate a longer response. I don't think that the brief description of your organization necessitates 10 pages, for example. But certainly, your implementation strategy and timeline may necessitate, half a page or maybe a full page, and you have the ability to do that in here. So, no, brevity is, and succinctness is important. So please do not go on and on and on. This is, again, my attempt to try to get you focused on only giving us responses that are necessary for the review. All right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I went through school figuring the longer the paper, the better the grade, and that wasn't always the case. So, really, Connie put this together to make sure that we don't take up so much of your time. We just want to get a brief understanding of what you're doing and what you're proposing. Get it in, we'll get the flavor of it. Don't feel that you have to add extra work or extra paper to just justify what you're doing. Brevity's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Collaborative partners. If we have people we would like, would you expect our collaborative partners to fill out a separate RFP here?
No. No. You can just list them.
These are agencies we want to work with.
Right.
Because they can do this piece. and this
Right.
piece.
But I mean, the expectation is, of course, that you're all in on it together.
You should tell them.
Yes. You should tell them that they're going to be expected to be part of this application. So, yeah.
But we don't have to give them, should we get an award, we're not gonna be expecting.
No, the lead agency will be the responsible party for everything. Okay, so, yes.
Would we be able to get a list of everybody?
Sure, yeah, Maya, I think, has a list that's out and around, and we can put together a summary of all the groups that were here today. And we have others, too, that have come to previous workshops, so we'll try to do a comprehensive list. Yeah,
Will we be able to get sort of the latest data on who's currently being served, the AB 109 population currently being served in the county?
You mean the latest, like, snapshot of who they are?
Yeah, I mean, there were regular.
Yeah, those come out from the sheriff's office and the probation department. We can get that snapshot out and put on the CCP's website as well. And it's also available as a regular report on the CCP's, the group's meeting agendas as well.
Yeah, it's all online, actually, all of our snapshots. That includes those that are also served by mental health and HSA Service Connect. So it's all on the CCP website.
Oh,
But we'll put it all together so that you can access it, okay? See, Community Corrections Partnership, all the counties, as a response to AB 109, were required to put together this body, which is legislatively mandated, and it includes people like the sheriff, the district attorney, the chief probation officer, and other representatives from the criminal justice, law enforcement, the local police chiefs, AOD providers, human services. So it's a long list of people who advise the county on the implementation of AB 109 in the county. Yeah, Lynette?
Hey, Attorney. So if I wanted to expand the existing services to include like housing, like pre and post release, would I include that in here? For
Yes.
Services that I'm already providing, just included?
Yeah, that would be a new contract. That would be something new, so you would be submitting a whole new application.
But for the same program I'm
Yeah,
already
yeah,
providing?
yeah.
And then the data, how far back, do you want all 5 years worth of data included in here?
No. What you want to do is give me a synopsis. You want to give me the outcomes. You know, what percentage of the people that you served, you know, did well.
Time frame, so how far back do you want?
You can go back 5 years if you want, as long as you don't give me 5 years worth of data. You know, just give me the roll up. That's all I need. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Okay. So now we're the program budget detail. You know, what we'd like to see is a line item budget for your program. Doesn't have to be, you know, but you know, and I'm no wizard at Excel, trust me, so I understand that these are difficult to do. But, I mean, most of you do these all the time, so this shouldn't be too bad. You know, what your ask is and how you intend to spend it, okay? Whether it's direct services, personnel, you know, equipment, whatever it is that you need to get your program up and running, administrative costs, and please, do not go over 15% on your administrative costs, all right? I mean, we are trying to use as much of this funding for direct services to the population, and I know you all are very accustomed to running very lean, you know, programs, so we get that. But occasionally there'll be you know, an application that comes in asking for 30%, which is just way too much. So if you could keep your administrative costs to 15% and below, that would be fantastic. So just give us a detail of what you expect to spend your funds on. All right, and this will be what we will use in order to, you know, pay you. So we will keep that information as part of the contract. And actually, we will, this is information that, will be shared with the board as well, if you get funded. So just know that. All right, but we will work with you to put together a final budget if your application is selected for funding. All right? And then lastly, financial and agency information. So, just a little background on your fiscal history, your total annual budget, copies of your year-to-date financial statements, if you have a recent audit, what were the outcomes of that? And then a list of your board members, if you have any, or your organization staff, who's going to be working on this particular program. Just something to show us who you are and that you are a serious entity. Yeah.
You want the org chart by position or by name?
A position is fine. Yeah. That's fine. So. And then just a name of the person that filled out the application and the date. So, pretty straightforward, I hope. Not too burdensome. And again, this can all be filed electronically. So if you go and when you download the application on the CCP's website, you can save it and then email it to me at the address that's listed on the front page of the first page of the RFP, which is igpa@smcgov.org. However, if you do have questions as you're putting together your application responses or putting together your financial information, whatever it may be, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is on the application itself. I would give Mike Callaghan's information as well, but
But your information's just great.
but I know he'll redirect them to me, so there you go. Okay. So, yeah.
Can you just remind everybody of the due date?
Sure. Yeah, so the due date again is April 10th, so that's a little more than a month from now. So hopefully you have enough time to put all this together, to go back, to think about, what you learned, to consider the needs of the RFP, the targeted RFP. And again, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And, yes?
If you were going after two things like transportation and innovative services, would you be expecting two proposals or combined needs and combined budget? So would you accept multiple proposals?
Yeah. I would suggest you split them out, actually.
Split them out?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's probably better to split them out. Okay.
You mean separate proposal when you say split? them out?
Yes, I mean separate proposals, right. One for the transportation, and if you have an innovative program or service, then I would do that as a second application, yeah. Yes?
Just to be clear, the collaborative partners and the supporting organizations, those are different?
The collaborative partners, and yes, no, they're the same, so, yeah.
So we list other supporting organizations, all the agencies we intend.
To partner with, right. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Yes?
Sometimes we do get referrals from other agencies, but they're people that we work with on a regular basis. So they're not necessarily a financial partner for a grant, but we need to list everyone that we're working with on a referral basis as well.
No, so if you're referring people to another organization, I wouldn't say that they are part of this grant. Now, if they are actually providing a service that you've gone into contract with the county with, then you would list them. Okay? Does that make sense?
That's fair.
Okay, all right. Again, my contact information is on the RFP, so I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope this has been informative. And you will find all the information that we've identified on the CCP's website. Noel and I will work to make sure that that gets on there today. And I wish you all good luck. Thank you.
That ends our program for today, but I just wanted to say in closing here, thank you so much to Adrian Tizier, Supervisor Tizier, and Supervisor Slocum, and Lorraine, and Maya, and Connie for all the work they put in, along with our colleagues from probation and the Human Services Agency for all the work they've done. And I want to thank you. Know this, every single day you are making a difference in our community, in this county. You are taking things that are in desperate need of help, taking people's lives in your hand and making their situation better. And I want to thank you and let you know that from the county, we're so proud of you. Keep up the great work. We look forward to partnering with you. And my public service announcement here is make sure you buckle up and drive safely. So have a great day.